The first punch, the turbulence hit hard. The cabin lights flickered as the plane jolted. A drink cart slammed against a seat, rattling cups and passengers alike. But no one noticed that dot, because in row 17, chaos had already begun. A sharp, terrified scream split through the white noise of engine hums and polite murmurs. Heads turned, gasps followed. A little black girl, no older than 7, sat in the window seat, her tiny shoulders trembling. Her cheek had turned red. Not the kind of red from embarrassment or cold air. It was the red of a fresh slap. Across the aisle, a woman in a flight attendant's uniform, blonde hair in a too-tight bun, perfectly pressed blazer stood over her, her chest heaving, her expression twisted with rage. "Stop crying," the flight attendant snapped, voice cold and venomous. "Do you want me to give you something to cry about?" Passengers began whispering. A few pulled out phones, but nobody moved. Not yet. 3 rows back, Luke Granger, off-duty, FBI agent, slowly opened his eyes. He had dozed off, but not anymore. He saw the child. He saw the mark on her face. He saw the woman's raised hand, and something in him snapped. He unbuckled his seatbelt, stood up, and walked down the aisle, calm but firm, his voice cutting, like steel through the cabin. "That's enough." The attendant froze. The child flinched. All eyes turned to Luke. Tall, sharp-suited, ex-military posture, eyes that didn't blink. The woman scoffed, masking her nerves. "Excuse me, who do you think you are?" Luke didn't flinch. "I'm someone who just watched you strike a child. I've seen enough. Step away from her. She kicked me." The attendant snapped back. "She's been a menace the whole flight." The girl said nothing. She just clutched a small stuffed bunny in her lap and stared at her shoes, lips trembling. Luke took one step forward. "I've been watching her since we took off. She hasn't moved, not once. Try another lie." The flight attendant's eyes darted nervously to the rest of the passengers. An older white woman sitting next to the girl suddenly spoke up. "She's telling the truth," the older woman said. The little girl asked politely for apple juice. This woman ignored her. Then suddenly, she slapped her out of nowhere. It was cruel. Luke's voice softened, but only slightly. "I need your name." "I don't have to tell you anything," the woman snapped. Luke reached into his inner coat pocket, pulled out his FBI ID. A collective gasp followed. The energy in the cabin shifted. Passengers now pulled out their phones boldly. The second flight attendant, a younger woman with dark curly hair, rushed over. "Wendy," she said, horrified. "What are you doing?" Wendy the blonde hissed. She was out of line. "She's 7. The other attendant snapped. That's when the plane dipped again, and oxygen masks dropped down. Screams filled the cabin. Someone spilled hot coffee. A baby cried in the chaos. Wendy lunged forward, grabbing the little girl's wrist. "Don't you touch her," Luke shouted. He moved like lightning, grabbed Wendy's arm and twisted it just enough to immobilize her. "Sit down," he growled. The younger attendant grabbed Wendy's other arm. "You're done, Wendy. Get to the back. Now." But Wendy wasn't done. Her eyes locked on the girl like she hated her, like she knew her. "This little brat is always in the way," she muttered under her breath, "just like her mother." Luke froze. So did the girl. "What did you just say?" Luke asked, voice sharp. Wendy didn't respond. She yanked herself away and stormed toward the rear of the plane. Luke crouched down to the girl's level. She was trying not to cry. "Hey, my name is Luke. I work for the FBI. You're safe now. Okay. What's your name?" The girl looked up with wide eyes. "Lena," she whispered. "Lena, can I ask, are you flying alone?" She nodded. "I have a note in my backpack. It says, 'Who's picking me up?'" Luke turned to the older woman beside her. "She's been completely quiet the whole flight," the woman said. "Just held on to that little bunny, scared to ask for anything. I thought it was nerves. I didn't realize," Lena whispered again, almost too quietly. "She said I remind her of someone she used to hit." Luke's blood turned cold. "My mom," Lena said. Luke's chest tightened. "Where's your mom now?" The little girl's voice cracked. She disappeared. For a moment, everything blurred. The noise of the cabin, the flicker of lights, the pressurized hum. Luke saw the bruises on Lena's arms, faint but old. He knew what that meant. He looked up to see the airline supervisor, a man in a gray suit, rushing over from first class. "Sir," he began, already annoyed, "you need to return to your seat. You're interfering with the crew." Luke stood, slowly, Are you aware one of your flight attendants struck a child? I was told she was defending herself. We'll deal with this when we land. Please stop disrupting the passengers. Luke raised his voice, loud enough for half the plane to hear. She hit a minor, unprovoked, and attempted to pull her from her seat. That's a federal offense. You'll be dealing with more than paperwork when we land. The man's face turned pale. I didn't realize. Luke turned to the passengers. Anyone else get footage? At least 5 hands went up. The supervisor looked like he wanted to vanish. I'll alert the captain, he muttered, and disappeared toward the cockpit. Luke knelt again beside Lena. Can I look at your backpack, just for a second? She nodded. He opened the side pocket and found the folded document, her itinerary, a custody order, and a single name listed under legal guardian, Evelyn Torres. He froze. He knew that name, because Evelyn Torres had filed a missing persons report 7 months ago, for her daughter, a woman named Maya, Lena's mother. Luke stared at the paper. This wasn't a custody transfer. This was a removal. Lena, do you know where you're going? She shook her head. Just someone's house. I never met her before. Luke felt the pieces clicking into place. Someone wanted this girl gone. Hidden. Someone who didn't want questions asked. And Wendy, the flight attendant, knew more than she let on. Luke pulled out his phone and quietly sent a message to his old FBI partner, who still worked in child exploitation cases. I think I just stumbled into something big. Need you on this when we land. Custody order doesn't match. Possible trafficking. Girl's name, Lena Torres. He slipped the phone back into his pocket. The young attendant returned from the back. She's locked in the crew quarters. She whispered, I'm sorry. I had no idea she was capable of this. Luke nodded. Keep the girl safe. Don't let anyone else near her. Then he sat beside Lena. She leaned into him, small and shaking. He didn't say another word, but he knew this wasn't the end of it. This was the beginning. Because if someone had struck this girl in public, mid-flight, surrounded by people, what had they done to her in private? And who really held custody? Luke's mind raced as the plane began its descent. They'd land in 40 minutes. He had 40 minutes to protect a child and cover a land stop, whoever was behind it, before she disappeared. Just like her mother, the disappearance filed. The wheels touched down with a screech. Passengers leaned back into their seats. The captain's voice came overhead. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chicago. Please remain seated. But in row 17, no one was moving. Lena clutched her bunny tight, her small hand wrapped around Agent Luke Granger's fingers like a lifeline. Her eyes were wide and distant, too quiet for a child. Her age. Luke stayed alert. He had already texted his partner Mia with the girl's name and the strange custody order. Now he waited. He wasn't letting this girl leave his sight. Flight marshal boarded the plane minutes after landing. A tall man in plain clothes, with a badge clipped to his belt. Luke stood to meet him halfway up the aisle. Agent Granger, the marshal asked. Luke nodded. Got your message. Captain called it in. You want to walk me through it? Luke gestured toward Lena. She's traveling under a custody document, signed by someone I know is currently under investigation. The flight attendant struck her mid-air. She's being held in crew quarters. The marshal glanced at the girl. Jesus. She looks terrified. She hasn't said more than 10 words, but she told me her mother disappeared. And the woman who hit her said something about knowing her mom. The marshal's face hardened. You think this is a trafficking case? Luke's voice lowered. I think it's bigger than that. They cleared the passengers first. Everyone was told to stay seated while the authorities came on board. One man protested loudly, but another passenger yelled, he's FBI. The kid was hit. That shut the complainer up fast. One by one, the rows emptied. Lena stayed with Luke. The older woman from her row, Ms. Florence, volunteered to stay behind too. She needs someone she recognizes. Florence said. Luke appreciated that Lena hadn't let go of Florence's shawl since the plane started. Descending to local officers came on next. One escorted Wendy, the blonde flight attendant, off the plane. She walked like she was still proud, even as passengers booed her under. Their breath. Luke kept his eyes on her. He saw it, that flicker of fear in her eyes. Not fear of arrest, fear of secrets. He turned to the marshal. Get her isolated. No phone call. Not until I get a chance to question her. She's airline staff, not a federal suspect. She assaulted a minor in tight, has prior knowledge of the girl's mother, and may be connected to a trafficking case. That makes her my problem now. The marshal nodded. I'll make a call. Luke knelt beside Lena again. You ready to get off the plane? Lena looked unsure. Will it hurt? No, sweetie, Florence said gently. We're just walking now. Nothing's going to hurt you. Any more? Lena nodded slowly, clutched her bunny and stood up at the gate. Luke insisted they be escorted to a private room. No press, no airline reps, no distractions. He had Lena and Florence seated with a child services officer. Luke stepped outside to take a call. It was his old partner, Mia Devlin, still in the Bureau's Child Crimes Unit. Luke, you're not going to like this, she said. Tell me. Maya Torres disappeared 8 months ago. Her daughter Lena was placed in temporary custody with a great-aunt. But that aunt filed a counterclaim and disappeared with the girl 2 weeks later. There's an open warrant for her arrest. Luke's jaw clenched. That's not who signed the document. I found in Lena's backpack. I know. The name on that order is Evelyn Torres, Maya's mother. Didn't Maya file a protection order against her? Exactly. Maya cut all ties with her mother. She told Child Services her mum was abusive. She thought Evelyn would hurt Lena if given access. Then suddenly Evelyn shows up with custody papers and boom, Lena vanishes. Luke's blood went cold, which means Evelyn might have forged the documents or someone forged them for her. There's something else to remember. That trafficking ring we tried to crack 2 years ago. Luke remembered girls from broken families taken under false paperwork, smuggled state to state under the guise of legal custody. Mia continued. Evelyn Torres's address showed up in the background of a surveillance photo during that case. She was never identified. But now it's all lining up. Luke paced the corridor. Where's Evelyn now? Unknown. But if Lena was being flown to her, then Wendy, the flight attendant, might be the one delivering her. Luke's stomach turned. Delivering like cargo. I need to talk to Wendy. Now 30 minutes later, Luke sat across from Wendy in an interrogation room. She looked irritated, not scared. You hit a child, Luke began. Why? She tried to trip me. Wendy replied, flat voice, dead eyes. She never moved. I saw everything. You weren't disciplining her. You were reacting personally. Wendy said nothing. Luke leaned forward. Did you know her mother? Still nothing. He placed a photo on the table, a screenshot of Maya Torres from the Bureau's file. Wendy flinch. So small, so fast, but Luke saw it. You recognized her? No. You paused. You reacted. Try again. I don't know her, Wendy said. Quickly Luke narrowed his eyes. You weren't just moving this girl. You were part of it. Part of whatever happened to her mother too. I want a lawyer. Luke leaned back. You'll get one. After this question, were you paid to deliver Lena? Wendy stared him down, but her silence said enough. Luke stood. You assaulted a minor. You may have participated in child abduction, and you're connected to an active trafficking case. You better start talking before someone else decides you're disposable. He walked out without waiting for her answer. His phone buzzed again. Mia got something, she said. The custody document. Total fake. State Record Office has no file with that ID number. It's a forgery. Someone wanted Lena taken out of the system. Quietly, Luke's mind spun. What about her real guardian? Still listed as missing. But there's chatter. Someone filed a rental agreement in Maya's name 3 days ago. In Detroit, she's alive. Or someone's using her ID. Either way, you need to get there. Luke turned. Lena sat on the bench beside Florence, still hugging that bunny, still waiting. She had trusted him. She had nobody else. He walked over, kneeled again. Lena, I think your mummy might be alive. I need to go find her. Will you come with me? Lena's eyes widened. You'll keep me safe. I promise. Florence leaned in. You're not going alone, are you? No, Luke said. I'll make sure we're protected. But if what I think is true, someone tried to erase this child's life, and I'm going to find out why. As they walked toward the exit, Luke made another call. He didn't know what waited for him in Detroit. But if Maya was alive, she was either on the run or a prisoner. Either way, they were about to find out the people behind it would regret ever boarding that plane. The Detroit led. The rental house in Detroit looked abandoned from the outside. Peeling paint hung from faded blue wood. The porch sagged under its own weight. But Luke Granger had seen enough crime scenes to know appearances lied. Sat quietly in the back seat of the black SUV parked across the street. She held her bunny with both arms. Florence sat beside her. They had driven 8 hours straight. Luke hadn't slept since the flight. He stared at the house address. Checks out. Mia's voice echoed through his earpiece. Rental signed under Maya Torres's name 3 days ago. Utility bills started yesterday's surveillance. We pulled traffic cam footage. No images of Maya, but someone used her credit card at a gas station 6 blocks away. Store cameras busted. Luke scanned the house again. No movement, no cars, no lights. I'm going in, he said. He pulled his jacket tighter, his holster pressed against his side. Not that he wanted to use it, but instincts whispered danger. Florence watched him from the car. Be careful, she said softly. Lena didn't speak, but her eyes stayed locked on the porch. Luke walked up slowly. Each step creaked. He knocked twice. No answer. He waited, then a noise faint behind the door. He stepped back, hand resting on his weapon. He knocked again, louder. I'm with the FBI, he called out. I'm here to help Maya Torres. Silence. Then a shadow moved behind the curtain. Someone was inside. Luke lowered his voice. I have Lena. Your daughter is safe. She's with me. The door clicked, then opened 2 inches. A woman's face peeked out, hair, wild eyes, red, pale, exhausted. Luke knew instantly it was her. Maya. She flung the door open. Where is she? Her voice broke. Where's my baby? Luke turned and waved at the SUV. Florence opened the back door. Lena looked out. Her eyes widened. Mama. Maya stumbled out barefoot onto the porch. Lena jumped from the car and ran, arms out. The bunny dropped into the grass. They collided on the lawn. Maya dropped to her knees, sobbing, pulling Lena into her arms. I looked everywhere for you, Maya cried. I never stopped. I swear, I never stopped. Lena clung to her, tears flowing freely now. She didn't say a word, just buried her face in her mother's neck. Luke stood still, watching, letting them have the moment. Florence whispered, who signs off on a miracle like this? But Luke wasn't, smiling because now the real question hit him. If Maya was alive, why was she hiding? And who forged the document, trying to send Lena away? An hour later, inside the house, Maya poured water from a rusty kettle. Her hands trembled. Lena sat beside her on the couch, still not letting go. Luke kept his questions slow, careful. He needed answers, but not at the cost of Maya's trust. When did you disappear? He asked. Maya didn't look up. 7 months ago. I was living with Lena. My mother kept trying to get custody. Said I wasn't stable. Said I was hallucinating. Were you? She looked at him now, eyes sharp. No. But I found out something she didn't want me to know. Luke leaned forward. What was it? My father's death. I thought it was natural, but I found hospital records. He died from blunt force trauma, head injuries, multiple. I never knew. He was trying to take me and Lena away from my mother before it happened. Luke's chest tightened. You think she killed him? Maya nodded slowly. I told a friend, someone I trusted. The next day, I was attacked, leaving my building. Woke up 3 days later in a warehouse. Tied up, cold, alone. Luke leaned forward. What happened after that? A man came, said he was with a family relocation network, said Lena would be reassigned. I fought him, bit his ear, escaped out a window, been running ever since. She looked at Lena, tears welled up again. They took her. I didn't know where. I couldn't go to the police. My mother has friends everywhere, lawyers, money. I was nobody, no job. No power. Luke clenched his fists. And the flight attendant Wendy, did you know her? Maya's eyes darkened. She's one of them. She used to come by my mother's place when I was a kid. Always acted sweet. But I heard her once on the phone, talking about packages and clean deliveries. Luke stood. He stepped aside to make another call. Mia, he said, we have confirmation. Evelyn Torres may be involved in her husband's murder. And she's definitely tied to a trafficking ring that moves kids using Airline insiders. We need a warrant, we need backup, and we need it now. Mia swore softly. I'll get the ball rolling. But Luke, this just went from domestic custody to international transport. We might be looking at something massive. Luke glanced back at Lena and Maya, then walked out to the porch. The sun was setting. He took a deep breath. For the first time since the plane, he felt the full weight of what they were uncovering, a network of people hiding behind respectability, disguising themselves as family, abusing, power-hurting children. He wouldn't stop, not now. Inside, Maya tucked Lena into a blanket. The child's eyes were already half closed. She hasn't slept properly since. I don't know, Maya whispered. Luke sat beside her. I can place you both in protective custody, witness protection. But we have to move fast. If your mother finds out you're alive, she'll come for us, Maya said without hesitation. She doesn't care about being exposed, only about control. Luke nodded. Then we expose her first. Maya paused. Can I tell you something? Of course, she used to say, my father never wanted me, that he only stayed for appearances. But I found letters. He loved me. He begged her to stop drinking, stop hitting me. Her voice cracked. I never got to say goodbye. And now, she wants to do the same to Lena. She won't. Luke promised, not while I'm breathing. Just then his phone buzzed again. A message from Mayor: incoming warrant, approved raid scheduled for 6 a.m. target, Evelyn Torres residence. Be ready. Luke stared at the screen, then back at the window where Maya gently stroked Lena's hair, eyes full of fear and fire. They had one night to rest, and then the storm would begin. The House of Secrets, 6:02 a.m. The black SUVs rolled to a stop in front of the Torres estate, a towering colonial home wrapped in gates and lies. FBI agents fanned out across the perimeter, guns holstered, vests, tight eyes, sharp look. Granger stood at the front. Beside him was Maya, dressed in a borrowed jacket, her fists clenched. She had insisted on coming. She wanted to see the house fall. Are you sure you're ready for this? Luke asked quietly. Maya didn't look away from the front door. I've been ready for 10 years. He nodded once, then turned to his comms. All units, we go in on my mark. Through the van's back window, Lena peeked out from Florence's lap. She was scared, but she understood now. This wasn't just about her. This was about stopping something far bigger. Luke gave the signal. The gates were cut open, boots hit gravel. The team swept toward the front porch. 3 knocks, no answer. They breached the door with one hard kick. Wood cracked, splinters flew inside. Silence. The air smelled like lavender and bleach. Luke led the charge. Down the hall, the house looked perfect. Expensive furniture, spotless rugs, family photos in gold frames. But he knew better. This wasn't a home. This was a mask. Clear right, clear left. Then a sound from upstairs. A door slammed. Second floor. Go. Luke took the stairs 2 at a time. His heart pounded, gun ready. At the end of the hall, a woman tried to shove a suitcase out a window. Silver hair, red nails, cold eyes. Villain Torres. She turned, saw Luke, didn't flinch. FBI. Luke said, you're under arrest for felony child abduction, forgery, assault, and conspiracy to commit trafficking. Evelyn raised her chin. You can't prove anything. Luke tossed a folder at her feet. Inside were copies of the forged custody papers, flight records, surveillance photos, a sworn statement from Wendy. The flight attendants he had broken in custody told everything. You moved children across state lines using airline staff and forged court orders. Luke said, you thought no one would notice, but someone did. A little girl with a bunny. Evelyn's mouth twitched. She was always weak, like her mother. That's when Maya stepped into the room, uninvited, unblinking. Evelyn froze. Maya, you tried to erase me. Maya said, you lied to the court. You lied to everyone. You killed Dad, didn't you? Evelyn didn't answer, didn't blink, stared at her. Maya found his medical file. Blunt trauma. You claimed he fell downstairs. He did. Evelyn snapped, then softer. He was going to take her from me, my own daughter. He was going to ruin everything. So you hit him, Maya said, voice shaking until he stopped breathing. Evelyn's hands trembled now. But I raised you. I gave you everything. I protected you from yourself. You abused me. Maya whispered, you protected your power, not me. Luke stepped in, cuff her. Evelyn didn't resist, but as they walked her past Maya, she whispered something chilling. She turned on you too. Just wait. Maya's eyes burned, but she said nothing. She had waited too long for this moment. Back at the FBI field office, Luke debriefed. Mere charges were being filed. Evelyn's assets frozen. More names were surfacing from Wendy's confession. An entire network hidden in uniforms and courtrooms. But Luke wasn't thinking about that. He was thinking about Lena. She sat on a bench just outside the office. Maya knelt beside her, explaining everything in gentle tones. When Maya said, you don't have to be afraid anymore, Lena finally spoke. But what if another mean lady comes on a plane? Luke stepped in. She won't. You're going to be with your mum, and we're making sure nobody can ever hurt you again. Lena stared up at him, her voice small. Promise. He kneeled, met her eye to eye. I promise. She reached out, took his hand, and for the first time she smiled. Later that night they were moved to a safe house under full protection. Luke brought them dinner, burgers and apple juice. Maya ate quietly. Lena fell asleep halfway through her fries. Is it over? Maya asked softly. Luke shook his head. It's just beginning. Evelyn will fight this. Her lawyers will try everything. But with Wendy's statement and your father's records, we can win this. I don't care about winning, Maya said. I care about never seeing her face again. Luke looked at her. You might have to. Court trial. Testimony. Are you strong enough? Maya stared at her daughter, then nodded yes. Because I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for her. Luke stood, grabbed his coat, but Maya stopped him with one question. Why did you help her back on the plane? You could have ignored it. Everyone else did. He paused, then answered truthfully, I lost my sister when I was Lena's age. I saw her get taken. I didn't stop it. I was scared. I told myself I didn't know what was happening. He looked away. She was never found. Maya's face softened. I'm sorry. That's why I joined the bureau. That's why I stepped in. Because I couldn't live with being too late again. Maya nodded, then whispered, you weren't too late this time. Luke left, but that night he didn't sleep because one part of Evelyn's story still echoed in his head. She'll turn on you too. Just wait. It wasn't a threat, it was a warning, and Luke knew something wasn't over yet. The hidden letter was nearly midnight when the safe house phone rang. Luke Granger answered on the first ring. He had stayed nearby all day just in case. This is Granger on the other end, Mia's voice shaken. Luke, we've got a problem. Luke tensed. What happened? Wendy's dead. Everything went quiet. A long silence, then repeat that she was found in holding. Wrist slashed. A guard says she was restless all afternoon, refused dinner. Someone either got to her or convinced her it was better to die than talk. Luke's mind moved fast. Was she in isolation? She was supposed to be, but guess who visited her yesterday? Evelyn's lawyer. No official documents, just a private consultation that the jail allowed because she still got money and influence. Luke's jaw clenched. Then she wasn't just silenced, she was warned. And if Wendy cracked, others might too. She left a note. Luke paused. Send it to me. I'm already driving it. Over 20 minutes later, Luke sat at the kitchen table of the safe house. The letter lay in front of him. Scrawled in shaky pen, tears stained the edges. It wasn't long, but it changed everything. I didn't know at first. They told me I was helping move kids away from broken homes. I believed them. Then I saw one girl returned a week later, bruised. And Maya's dad. I heard what they did to him. I should have run, but Evelyn said if I talked, I'd end up like him. And now I will tell Maya. I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt Lena. She looked so much like her, it scared me. I snapped. I'm so sorry. Luke read it 3 times, then burned it into memory. He went into the living room, where Maya was sitting, blanket wrapped around her knees, watching Lena sleep on the couch beside her. Luke handed her the letter. She read it silently. Her hands shook. I knew she was involved. Maya whispered, but I didn't think she'd feel guilty. Luke sat beside her. Guilt doesn't erase the damage, but it does mean she wasn't a monster. Just someone too weak to stand up. Maya nodded, then looked up. I want to testify. You don't have to decide that now. I do. She cut in. She ruined too many lives, and Lena deserves to know the truth was faced, not hidden. Luke hesitated. There's something else. He pulled a second document from his file. A forensic report pulled from the estate after the raid. What is it? Maya asked. Luke laid it on the table. They found a hidden safe. Inside was your father's journal. Maya blinked. What? He wrote it in the months before his death. Describes arguments with Evelyn. Mentions plans to take you and Lena away. Mentions bruises. Fear. Maya's breath caught. You read it. I read 1 page. Then I stopped. I thought you should be the one to open it. He handed her the worn journal. She flipped to the bookmarked page. Her father's handwriting filled the page. Careful, heavy eyes saw the way Evelyn looked at Lena today. And I realized she will do to her what she did to Maya. I can't stay silent tomorrow. I file for emergency custody if something happens to me. I didn't fall. I didn't slip. Please believe that. Daniel. Maya covered her mouth. Tears fell. Silently, Lena stirred on the couch. Maya quickly wiped her face. He knew. She whispered, he tried to protect us. He died for it. Luke nodded. He gave you something stronger than fear. He gave you truth. Maya closed the journal, held it to her chest. I'm not afraid of her anymore. The next morning, Luke walked out to get coffee from the corner store. As he turned the block, he noticed something. A black car, same one he'd seen yesterday, parked across from the safe house. He slowed his pace, got closer, pretended to tie his shoe inside to men's sunglasses, talking into radios. Luke turned around, pulled out his phone. Mia, we've got company. You sure? Positive. Surveillance team. But not ours. They're tracking Maya. Evelyn's people. Maybe. Or someone worse. He turned the corner fast, jogged back to the house inside. Maya had Lena dressed and ready. Florence was packing light. We're leaving, Luke said quickly. Now. They found us. Maya froze. But we're in federal protection. Not anymore. They've breached that. We move fast. New location. No digital trail. Lena clutched her bunny eyes wide, not crying, just scared. Luke reached for her hand. You remember what I said? She nodded. You promised I'd be safe. I did. and I keep my promises." They got in the van, drove in silence. Florence took the back seat, Maya and Lena in the middle. Luke took sharp turns, switched lanes, checked the rearview mirror constantly, but the black car never followed. Not today. 2 hours later, they arrived at a remote government cabin up north. No Wi-Fi, no cell tower, just peace. Luke set up security. Maya cooked what little they had. Lena drew on the back of a cereal box with a pen. She found they were safe for now, but Luke knew the trial would come, the attacks would increase, the pressure would mount, and Evelyn, even from her jail cell, would try everything to keep her secrets buried. That night, as stars came out above the cabin, Lena crawled into her sleeping bag. Beside Maya, she looked up at Luke. "Are you going to stay with us forever?" Luke smiled. "No, but I'll always be watching, always close." Lena nodded. "I hope you find your sister someday." Luke blinked, then nodded. "Me too." He stepped outside, breathed in the cold night air. Want more? Part of this story, one final confrontation, one shot at healing everything broken. Tomorrow they would face Evelyn in court, and what happened there would change everything. The last promise. The courtroom was cold. Polished wood floors, rows of silent watchers, but all Maya could hear was her own heartbeat. She held Lena's small hand. The child sat beside her, wearing a little blue dress, and her favorite bunny in her lap. Across the room sat Evelyn Torres, chained, staring without emotion. The trial had moved fast, thanks to Wendy's signed statement before her death, thanks to the journal, thanks to the dozens of flight records that connected Evelyn to at least 4 other children who had gone missing under mysterious custody swaps. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Maya's knees nearly gave out, but she stayed standing for Lena. Luke Granger sat directly behind them, silent, watching everything. He had promised to stay, and he had kept that promise. Maya took the stand. First, the prosecutor spoke softly. Let her speak in her own words. She described the years of manipulation, the way Belvelin had convinced everyone she was unstable the night her father died, the bruises, the threats, the final escape. Then she told the jury what she remembered most, not the pain, not the terror, but the feeling of powerlessness. "I tried to fight," Maya said, "but she made me feel like my voice didn't matter, like the world would always believe her. And when they took Lena, I didn't think I'd ever get her back. But one man heard her cry. One man did something. And because of him, I have my daughter again." Her eyes flicked to Luke. He didn't smile, he just nodded. The defense attorney tried to tear Maya down, called her emotional, unstable, paranoid, but Maya stayed calm. She looked directly at Evelyn, and for the first time in her life, she said the words she had waited years to say. "You abused me. You broke me. You tried to break my daughter. But we're still here. You didn't win." Then came Luke's turn to testify. He walked to the stand, told the jury exactly what he saw on that plane. How Wendy struck Lena, how Lena froze in fear, how she whispered that her mother had disappeared, how that small voice led him to uncover a network built on silence. He spoke like a man, not trying to impress, just trying to protect Lena. Didn't ask for help. He said she didn't scream, she didn't fight, she just sat there, trying to survive. That's what broke me. Because that kind of silence comes from deep, old fear. He looked toward the jury, then added quietly, "And fear is exactly what the defendant used for years. Fear kept everyone quiet, until now." The trial lasted for days, but the verdict took just 2 hours. The courtroom fell silent as the foreman stood. The jury, find the defendant, Evelyn Torres, guilty on all charges. Gasps, then silence, then tears. Maya dropped her face into her hands. Lena turned to Luke. "Does that mean we won?" Luke smiled gently. "You won the moment you survived." Evelyn showed no emotion as they led her out, but for the first time she didn't look back. 2 months later, Maya and Lena stood at the edge of a quiet park. Trees swayed, children played in the distance. Lena laughed as she chased a butterfly. Her hair flowed freely in the wind. No bruises, no fear. Maya sat beside Luke on a bench. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You don't have to," he replied. "You did the hardest part. You kept going when no one believed you." She looked at him. "Are you going back to the bureau?" He hesitated. "I think I'm going to take some time off, figure out what comes next." She nodded, then smiled. "You saved us, you know. Not just on that plane. All the way through." Luke looked toward Lena. "She saved me too," he said softly. "I spent my whole life chasing justice for a sister I couldn't protect. But with Lena, I got to change the ending later that evening. Lena gave Luke a crayon drawing it, showed him holding her hand next to her mother, a rainbow above them, and at the top, in crooked letters, "Thank you for seeing me." He folded it carefully, placed it in his wallet, where his sister's photo used to be. Maya hugged him one last time, not as a broken mother, but as a woman who had taken her life back. As he walked away, Lena called after him, "Will we see you again?" He turned, smiled, and said, "You don't have to see me. You already carry me with you." The end. Final message to the audience. Sometimes the smallest voice reveals the biggest truth. Sometimes the act of listening really save a life, and sometimes it takes just one person to say, "I believe you," to break generations of silence.